Hi, thanks for joining us today. It's very gratifying to have people here interested in our degree. My name's Aaron Seymour. I'm one of the staff in visual communications, and also here today we have Jackie Lorber-Kosunik. She is the program director of visual communications, and one of our wonderful students, third year student Ruby Neagle, who will talk a little bit about the course later on. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation, upon whose ancestral lands our city campus now stands. I'd like to pay respects to elders, both past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. I'm not going to read through this, but I would just point out and let you know that we are recording today's session. None of you are on screen, so you won't be recorded, but it's just a legal requirement. And just a little housekeeping before we get started. Feel free to enter any questions via the question and answer widget at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer the questions. Being an online event, do bear with us if there are any technical issues, and we'll work to resolve them quickly. So, what is visual communication design? We live in a world of visual communication, surrounded by images and text. More than 100 years worth of footage is uploaded to YouTube every day. Millions of photos are taken, apps clicked on, magazines printed, websites and blogs updated. We live in a world where people increasingly communicate with each other, access information and gain knowledge through visual media. The visual communication designer is someone who navigates and shapes these complex information environments. We consider ways in which text, image, motion, space, action and interaction can be utilized to engage audiences, explore issues and facilitate change. We make visible the ideas of others and ourselves, provide clarity and structure, offer critique, shape opinions, channel culture, and reflect society back to itself. But perhaps the best way to get a sense of what visual communicators do is to take a look at the work of some of our students. Visual communicators design apps. This is Carmen Familara's project, Cut the Crap. It's a very elegantly designed app that encourages people to reduce the amount of waste they produce. But it's also a very thought-through system that incorporates social media and proposes local government initiatives to assist in this shift in people's behaviour. It's a great example of the kind of work our students do. Yes, it looks gorgeous and is visually well designed, but it also demonstrates a thoughtful understanding of people and their behaviour, legislative and political contexts, and works towards developing solutions that work at a systemic level. It's most definitely not design as window dressing. Visual communicators win awards. This was one of my students, Vicky's design for an app called Cuppa. This was developed in a subject where students are tasked with designing apps that build social connection in the real world, that connect people rather than push them further apart. Vicky's app works to connect people to their immediate neighbours, people who live in their building or street that perhaps they've never spoken to borrow and share goods rather than just buying them, and through doing so to reduce waste and to develop community. The project won the Digital Product and Experience category in the Adobe Awards, and Vicky won a place in the Adobe Top Talent Team for 2021 out of 1,000 entries globally. They also kindly flew Vicky to LA for a 4-day workshop with 20 other design students from around the world. Obviously, that's not going to happen this year. Visual Communicators design publications, books, magazines, and other printed matter. We create typography. This project en masse is a design for a fictional religion built around the 12 commandments of social media. Thou shalt not OMG, thou shalt post thy love, thou shalt not stalk. So it's a cute, clever idea and very humorously done, but it's also demonstrates exquisite typography and an incredible level of craft skill on the part of the designer, Thomas. We develop branding and identity systems. This is Simon's proposal for a rebrand of the London Design Museum. Not only is it a new visual identity system, but he's designed a very clever branding strategy for how the museum might position itself in London's very crowded marketplace of art galleries and museums. The best museum in London has never shown art, and less umming, more ahhing. Visual communicators also analyze and visually make sense of information and data. And as we increasingly live in a world of big data, these skills are becoming incredibly important. This is a project Tom did using the programming language processing. It's called Call Me, and it's a visualization of the impact of September 11. And I'll read from his statement. Using data from WikiLeaks' interception of pager messages, as well as seismological data from the University of Columbia from the morning of September 11, this visualization was generated in order to better understand and reflect upon the emotional responses of those in conversation that day. Drawing data from 8:44 until 11 a.m., every pager message sent from emergency personnel, organizations, and regular civilians is plotted at the correct time as a blue point, while every large blue spot is an instance of the phrase, call me. A selection of these messages are printed in their entirety next to the corresponding points in order to articulate the significance and the emotional resonance of that day in history. Visual communicators make images and graphics move. This motion graphics piece proposes a fictional and satirical app called Rule of Thumb.
But staying motivated and making sure we spend enough time on our smartphone or tablet can be difficult. That's why we created Rule of Thumb, so you can unlock your online potential. Rule of Thumb measures how far you scroll and swipe on your smartphone or tablet every day. It allows you to track your performance, set targets, and displays your progress so you can crush your goals. Compete with friends in game-like challenges. Share your results and stay motivated. Swipe faster, scroll longer. With Rule of Thumb, every scroll you make, every swipe you take, adds up to a smarter, faster, better, brighter, more connected you.
It was made as a parody, but I have to say, having spent 10 weeks in lockdown with my children, seems more like a thing they might actually download and use. Visual communicators, and probably myself as well, I have to say, visual communicators also code. This is a beautiful project where a student, Natalie, developed a fully functional plugin for the Chrome web browser. I'm sure many of you have heard of the concept of the filter bubble. An example, it's the way that search engines and social media deliver content based on our previous search history. So an example might be if you typed COVID into Google, depending on who you are and the kind of websites you've looked at, you might be delivered by Google medical information, or you might be delivered conspiracy theories. It has a huge impact on the way our society plays out, as seen in the kind of US elections around Donald Trump. Without going into too much kind of technical detail about how Natalie achieved this with her plugin, what it allowed people to do was to see data and compare results of the kind of results that Google would deliver them compared to what they would deliver to other people. And visual communicators create illustrations. We do research. I ran a studio recently with our honours students examining the issue of Australia's treatment of asylum seekers and how it's played out politically and in the media. Part of this was using methods of digital text analysis to analyse large bodies of text for patterns of language and meaning. Here's an example of some process work by Isabella Sansai. It addresses the Australian Migration Act and all the amendments that have been made to that act since it came into law in 1958. Isabella tracked and decoded all the amendments that have been made directly and also those which have been made implicitly through a network of other acts and legislation. Working at small scale through laborious hand-generated methods, her process speaks to a frustration with the clarity of legal systems around the humanitarian issue of asylum seekers. And it aims to uncover the complexity and impenetrability of the legal system surrounding this issue. We also experiment with materials and processes. This is a beautiful screen printing project by Josh Roseberg, of which he says, traces attempts to communicate the tenuous relationship between my father's recent Alzheimer's diagnosis and the consequent writing of his autobiography. Through material experiments of erasing, degrading, and altering screen prints of his manuscript, I aim to reflect the fragility of memory and the ephemeral nature of the written word. For this project, students experimented with the UTS laser cutters and 3D printers to develop a range of design outcomes. This was Emily Goh's meticulous production of a series of insects made from laser cut paper. And 2 pieces of work where students 3D modeled typographic objects and then printed them out on our 3D printers. These are some of the career paths to someone graduating from our degree today. 10 years ago, half these jobs didn't exist, and in another 10 years, this list will be completely different again. It's important to note that doing this degree doesn't provide you a job. What it provides you with are the design fundamentals, the critical thinking, the communication skills, and the research methodologies to adapt to the changing requirements of the design profession and the world at large. But will my child get a job? This is a question anxious parents always ask us, to which the only answer can be, well, how hard will your child work? There are no guarantees in life, but our graduates are in high demand, and this degree is very well respected. The value of design, not just as a discipline to make things look a certain way, but as a method of researching and thinking, is increasingly being recognized. We have a large number of graduates now being employed, for example, in financial institutions like Westpac and Deloitte, as well as technology companies like Google and Microsoft, as well as more conventional design studios. UTS is ranked 3rd in Australia for graduate outcomes, and 97% of students are employed full-time 3 years after graduation. What do we teach? We teach technical skills, computer software, how to use still and moving image cameras, how to set type on a page, to write code, to create websites. But there's a lot more to design than this. We teach craft skills, typography, composition, color hierarchy, sequencing, juxtaposition, movement, and how these things can be manipulated to communicate information in different ways, to create interest and emotion. We teach communication skills, how to develop design rationales, how to articulate your ideas, not just through images and text, but verbally and in writing. But the most important thing we teach you is critical thinking and research methods. This is what university is really about, learning new ways to think. And this, more than anything else, is our area, I think, at UTS of excellence. what distinguishes us from some of the commercial colleges, and I would also argue many of the other university design degrees available in Sydney and across Australia, is our graduates' capacity to critically analyse problems and needs, and to use research and analysis to understand the contemporary context in which we are working and living, and the historical forces that shape these contexts. How we teach. The primary way we teach is through doing, what we call practice-based and problem-based learning. This isn't a degree like law where you'll sit passively through hours of lectures. Most of the teaching here happens in studios, workshops, computer labs, where you'll work on practical design problems with your peers and industry under the guidance of staff. We have world-class labs, photography studios, fabrication workshops, and these are the places where most of your learning will happen, not in lecture halls. This is our degree structure. We offer an undergraduate degree, a 3 years bachelor, which includes an embedded internship program. You can go on to do a 1 year's honours, depending on your results. And of course, you can continue to postgraduate study doing a master's degree or a doctorate. Why study UTS? Our greatest asset, I think, is our students. You'll be studying with a cohort of the brightest and most talented. And while we try to teach you everything we can, a huge amount of your learning will come from your peers, the ideas you develop together, the projects you work on. The people you meet at university will become your peers in your professional life, the people you connect and share knowledge with and mention jobs to. You will all stand on each other's shoulders. And on this note, I'd like to hand over to Ruby, one of our third year students, to talk a little about her experience of studying at UTS. Over to you, Ruby.
Thank you. Beautifully explained, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Ruby and I'm a third year studying visual communication and creative intelligence and innovation. And as Aaron explained, this is such a multidisciplinary degree itself. You have this broad range of skills which are so flexible in the workforce. So I can go down, as explained, an artistic route or a more corporate route and focus on like brand strategy and work for Deloitte or Westpac or one of those amazing companies of sorts. But yeah, in terms of just my university experience, I was the same as you. I read this like description of Viscom and was so overwhelmed and confused about just what this course was all about. But I went for it, mainly because I have a passion for the arts and filmmaking and animation. I just love that whole world and I wanted to get involved, and I felt that this was the most appropriate course for that. So that's how I welcomed myself in here. But in terms of just the first year of this course, I was so intimidated by the kind of broad range of skills and design practices that a lot of my colleagues were able to do. And I personally come from a background of no Adobe software awareness. After Effects, InDesign, Photoshop, could not do that. Procreate was a myth. I still can't draw, but I'm here. So I think that in itself is a great way to just kind of judge that this is not just a creative focused course. This is actually, as Aaron explained, it's critical thinking, it's conceptualizing. There's this whole other world which exists in this course. And I guess, yeah, for me, I was so overwhelmed first year. I did not have those practical skills, but the beauty of uni is that it is a journey, and I got to explore all these different fields through my electives and talking to my tutors. And I was able to kind of build a platform for myself in terms of the things that I was really interested in and the things which don't really work for me, which is coding. I figured that out last year, not touching it, but gave it a go at least. And yeah, I think the best, I know this is so cliche, but visual communicators, we do bring ideas to life. And we just think about it in such a like, everything has a purpose in this practice, and I just think this was one of the best decisions I made for my career. Not only in terms of flexibility, but I have so many skills that I can use in different contexts. So I'm always kind of valuable in the workforce, which is something really reassuring to have as a student. And yeah, I'm really proud to kind of be here and say that to you guys today. But yeah, that would probably be my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. I think you touched on a really important point there, that there are many different pathways through the degree, and people come with different skills, different interests, different expectations, and those skills expectations change over the course of the degree as well. But it's not a one size fits all. It's really, there's enough diversity for people to kind of really figure out the kind of designer they want to become. So, you know, we have fantastic students and staff, but we also have significant industry links, an embedded internship program, potential for further study, honors, masters, doctorate, amazing facilities. We really focus on research here. That's a really crucial thing, I think, at UTS. And we have a really strong global orientation. We have 12 permanent staff. The other 100+ people who teach into the degree are industry professionals. This ensures our teaching is relevant and current and creates links with industry. You'll be learning with the people who you may one day end up working with. And a lot of projects that you work on, particularly in the later parts of the degree, collaborations with industry or working for real-world clients. The School of Design also runs global studios where you can study on location in various places around the world to gain experience of other cultures and other design cultures. Obviously, this program is somewhat curtailed at the moment, and actually even Kayama is now off the menu. But hopefully we all pray that we'll be coming back to us all soon. We're going to move to questions in a moment, or perhaps people have been typing questions into the chat box. But maybe I just want to point out a couple of things. We have the program has an Instagram that you can go and follow if you're interested in the course. You can find more information about the website. And a couple of questions that always come up is like, what happens if I apply and I don't get in? And I think that's a really important question. I think it's super important to not feel derailed if that experience happens. You know, we have people who've taken a number of years to get into the course and go on to be hugely successful. You know, getting a good mark in your HSC is not the only way to succeed in life. So, you know, we have a non-recent school leaver entry by portfolio kind of avenue. So if you don't get in, you can take a year off. And after a year, you're now considered a non-recent school leaver. And at that point, we assess you on a portfolio of work, not on your ATAR. You know, so I think if you don't get in, it gives you 12 months to build a portfolio of work, perhaps to build on stuff you've done in the past or to learn design yourself in various ways. You know, there's definitely more than one kind of route to be a designer. And I think that's a super important thing to be aware of. Okay, so thanks very much. I really appreciate you coming. If you have any questions, there's a QR code here. So I really encourage you to scan that QR code and it will take you to our website with further information on the degree. Now, Jess, at this point, do we open for chat or does the session end?
The question and answer is coming in hot here. We've got plenty to get through.
All right, well, we'll just sit here. Jack, do you want to split up this between us answering? You're on mute, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I always do that. Anyway, hi everyone. Thanks, Erin, and thank you, Ruby. That was fantastic to hear from you, Ruby, and get that insight. And Erin, thank you again for giving such a incredibly rich summary of the degree. Jess, do you want us to do respond to some of these questions live or?
Yeah, I think if you just read the question and answer live, that's perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I might start at the top and maybe we can take turns. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
So other than a graphic designer or a digital marketer, what are some of the career pathways of a Bachelor of Design in BizCom? So I think probably, Erin, you answered some of those things, but just to kind of remind you, there's a whole lot of areas that you can kind of go into: web design, graphic storytelling, typography, strategic design, experience design, an information visualizer, a motion designer, UX, UI. It's a broad kind of, there's a broad range of things that you can go to, and it really depends on what you decide you would like to focus on, what you're interested in, the skills that you'd like to build, the capabilities that you'd like to kind of nurture. And what drives you, what makes you kind of interested in.
And I think a really interesting thing too, that's a change that's really happened over the last 10 to 15 years, is that, designers traditionally work in design studios that really focused on design, and increasingly, large organizations are employing in-house designers, not to kind of design things visually to make things look nice, but as kind of strategic thinkers. And I think that's a really crucial thing. There's a real understanding that the ability to communicate, to understand people, to be able to read people, to organize the kind of complex information systems that we operate in are like crucial skills for organizations and government. And so increasingly we have designers who are working in that kind of capacity too.
Yeah, 100%. Amelia has asked a question, what is the ATAR for visual communication? So some of this information is also available online for you, but my understanding is the lowest selection rank is 90, but if you're doing a combined degree with international studies, it's 92 and 0.75, and if you're doing a combined degree with creative intelligence and innovation, it's 92.4. So that's but most of that information is also available for you to look at online, in case you didn't get that from me just now. Next question. Do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah. Is it possible to apply for the Bachelor of Visual Communication through UAC? Yes, that's how you apply. Another person asked, are we expected to understand how to code or have basic coding skills? Absolutely not. The assumption, we don't assume you have any knowledge when you come into the degree at all. Some people come in with coding skills, some people come in with fantastic illustration skills, some people come with photography skills. A lot of people come in with no particular skills at all, and that's the whole reason you're coming to the university, is for us to teach you those.
And you also might find that you come in having loved doing one thing, and then you learn about something else and you entirely change your mind and want to go down that path. So don't feel like you have to have made that decision before entering the degree at all. What separates this course from other universities? Well, that's it. I'm going to answer that from my biased position here. So look, just reiterating what I think Erin has already so clearly stated. I think that the work that we do here at UTS is driven by a focus on the role that design has in a kind of strategic sense. It's also, we build on research. All of our design graduates have capabilities in research methods, are able to kind of conceptualize, work with others. There's an enormous amount of on ground kind of experience. Your third year, the third year is entirely sort of external facing. You're working with either partners, project partners, or NGOs, or a variety of different kind of externals. Studio leaders are experts in their field. What else have I missed? I think we contextualize design and look at design as a future-facing, future-orientated career option. I think we're in an incredible position globally. There is enormous amount of transition and change, and I think designers will be at the center of enabling some of that transition and change to occur. And I think we really believe in enabling our graduates to have those skills to work with others to make those changes possible. Is that sort of?
Yeah, I think so. We have a lot of questions here, and we don't have a lot of time, but there's some repetition. So I might just try and cover a few of them in one go, Jackie. There's a few questions about, are you expected to have existing knowledge, etc. So I think I've answered that. No, you're not expected to have any particular knowledge. Someone else asking kind of similarly, do I need to design websites or apps? You don't have to focus in any particular area. It's totally up to you. But certainly throughout the degree, there are moments where you touch on a whole bunch of different media. And the reason for that is to give people a taste of something. You know, I think it's really important that people experience and gain knowledge about how, fundamentals of user experience, for example, website design, even if that's not a career that they necessarily want to pursue. And sometimes people think they're not interested in those things, and then they spend some time on them, and then they're like, oh my God, I love this, you know. So, but it's certainly not something that has to be a major focus. Class sizes range from, like, my class at the moment, 16, so 16 to kind of 22, 23. It really depends. When you get into honors, the groups are much smaller. A normal week in visual communications, you probably have like 8 to 10 hours of face-to-face learning, and then that's kind of, you know, traditionally that's on campus. At the moment, we're obviously working remotely, and then you're expected to complete a full-time load, so you should be working 36 hours a week. So a lot of that time is spent in your own time working, you know, on campus or at home, however you want to work.
Okay. How many students do we enroll in the first year? So last year we had 200 enroll for first year. This year it will range between sort of 190 and 210 normally most years. That tends to be the sort of the bandwidth that we work in. Is there a choice of majors and electives? Yes, there is a choice of electives. You do 2 electives in design studies, but then there are 2 electives of your choice. There are ways within which you can select focus. So like major experiences, so whether it be motion, illustration, graphic storytelling, photography, information visualization, branding, and strategy design. What does the VisCom course look like during the time of COVID-19? That's a very good question. Well, we are, as you can kind of expect, we are bound by what New South Wales Health constrains us to. So at the moment we are off campus and working remotely. So we have online learning, online studios, online teaching effectively. What happened last year is that the moment the restrictions were lifted, we began returning to the campus, initially solely and then kind of all in kind of one fell swoop. I will say that we are absolutely 100% committed to studio-based learning, which means on-campus learning. So the moment those restrictions do lift for us, we will be back in the studios, because we fundamentally believe that's the best way to learn in this particular discipline.
I mean, I really hope, you know, no one can make any promises about what the future looks like with regard to COVID. I think we've done, you know, there's no point pretending it's as good as an experience as being on campus, but I do think we've done a good job of transitioning to online learning. And actually, I've been really surprised at the quality of the work that's come out through online learning. So, yeah, but I certainly hope by next year, you know, we're all vaccinated. Fingers crossed.
Ruby, do you want to say anything to that?
Yeah, no, completely. It's definitely different. But I guess what's amazing, which is a point that I would like to bring up, is just the sense of community in this course. Like there's a small count of us, and you get to meet these people that are really inspiring. And we kind of just adapt to the situation. So a lot of the programs we use is like Miro and Teams. And if worse comes to worse and we're just having a bit of a bad day, we will just call each other on Zoom and work together as a team. And that's the type of environment you're getting into with this course, which is so beautiful. So yeah, it definitely was a bit of a challenge, especially last year, like getting into the way of online learning. But yeah, in terms of quality, I've been able to execute some work that I'm proud of during this time. So I'm still learning. It's very much independent, but at the same time, I just feel like, I don't know, I did this like myself, if that kind of makes sense. Like I went out, found that research, and this is something that I've purely made with just my own resources. And that was quite an amazing eye-opening experience for me. But yeah, it is different, but we make the most of it.
There's a question about UX design. Is this course something that could lead to that? Yes, absolutely. Just quickly, UX design is the user experience, so the entire experience of using a digital experience, whether it's a website or an app, thinking about the kind of whole totality of that experience, and user interface is thinking about the visual elements of what an app might look like, designing the icons, the typography, the color, etc. But certainly that's something you could focus on in the degree. How demanding is the course? Ruby, how demanding is the course?
It's demanding, but it's such a great, like, you figure out the routine and you understand the kind of standard of execution, and what you're able to produce in maybe like 6 weeks is amazing. So from someone that has an internship and is able to like work in the field, they're amazed by how quick I can just jump on a project, understand it, conceptualize, and execute. And that in itself is something that VisCom has taught me.
Great. Are there any student support staff available? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. What kind of support? I mean, the staff are all here to support you in your academic learning. The university has support. So if you are a student that might have particular special needs, there's a whole special needs department in the university that can certainly accommodate difficulties that you might have that are particular to you. So certainly that should not be a barrier to you studying at the course. And like our commitment as staff is to, what makes us proud is to facilitate you to become the best designer you can be. So, we really want to support you through that process. So I hope, that you would get the support that you need without being able to know more specifically what that might be.
Can the degree be combined? Yes, currently with international studies and BCII, a Bachelor of Creative Intelligence and Innovation. They're the two sort of options that our current visual communication students have available to them. Are there any internships and job opportunities? Yes, there is an internship program in 3rd year where you are expected to do an internship over the course of the year as part of a subject, and there are many live projects, real briefs effectively with project partners that you will do throughout the course of your degree. Not in 1st year. The live partners really are the kind of end of 2nd year and 3rd year specific. Ruby, do you want to say something to that? That's probably your...
Yeah, no, completely. That's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm working with industry. So I have my tutor who kind of is almost the mother and I guess makes sure that everything's kind of running smoothly. But independently, me and my kind of colleagues are the first response to the client. So the client talks to us, we're negotiating and discussing deliverables and executions and concepts and strategies. And it's just so amazing having that safety net of like, we have a talk to the client and we go back to our tutor and we're like, oh my goodness, this happened, and just like really talk it out and just have these pointers is just so reassuring instead of, I guess, in just going into it and kind of just panicking a little bit. Like it's such a really nice support network in that regard as a 3rd year working with clients now, and having that really nice open communication with my tutor is amazing and makes the world of difference. So yeah, we do get a taste of internship and work experience during this course, which is amazing.
And the only other thing I'd say on that front is job opportunities. We have an enormous, we have incredible links with industry across the sort of sector, and are often asked to make recommendations, put people forward. There are graduate programs that our degree is linked to. So there are plenty of opportunities in that sense for jobs post your degree.
There are a few questions about ATARs, and if you don't get sufficient ATAR, how to kind of bolster your portfolio. So if you're coming straight from school, then you are assessed based on your ATAR and your ATAR only. We also have a kind of, can't remember the exact terminology, Jackie, but if you've done certain subjects like design subjects in school, etc., you get kind of bonus points. So a number of points will get added to your ATAR to kind of bolster it if you've done certain subjects. And you can find that information out on the UAC website. But if you don't get in, then you can apply the next year through a portfolio. The best way to bolster your portfolio is to, I think a lot of people might study elsewhere. So sometimes people might do a short course at TAFE for a commercial college for 6 months or a year. People have already done some design work in school, and so they might take on design jobs that interest them, or for friends, designing things for relatives, friends, stuff like that. There are a whole bunch of different pathways. I think we're always super impressed when we see non-recent school leavers who bring a portfolio of work that is strong, because it says, I was sufficiently motivated to go out in the world. I'm passionate about design. I didn't get in, but I was committed. So I wouldn't be discouraged if you don't get sufficient ATAR to think that you won't be able to get into the degree at a later point in time. A few questions about hardware and computers, etc. Most students are using Macs, and most of the facilities at the university use Macintoshes, but we certainly have students who have PCs, and really it's not a huge deal these days. And also, is the course heavily kind of coding and computer based? It's certainly not heavily coding based at all. That's an area you can go into if you want to. It's heavily computer based in the sense that all design is kind of done now on computers, using Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. So you are going to have to master that software. The days of using kind of analog machines to set type and stuff, metal type and stuff are well and truly over. So, yes, computers are important, but we also have a real emphasis on kind of the tangible and material qualities of design, and certainly people are doing collage, hand printmaking methods, all those kinds of things as well.
Does the course include any video work? So yes, it does. Motion graphics, motion design, video, animation for design specifically, rather than sort of long form kind of film animation. We're sort of distinct in terms of thinking about it in the context of design. Yes, do you want to say anything more to that, Erin, with video, or?
No, I think certainly, hopefully from some of the work that I showed, you can see that people develop strong motion graphics skills. Yeah. The emphasis is on design. If you want to be a filmmaker, it's probably not the degree to do, but if you want to shoot video, incorporate typography, motion graphics, absolutely. That's an area we cover.
I'm just going to reiterate this question: is a portfolio required? You don't require a portfolio if you're going through the ATAR process. So you are currently a Year 12 student and you are applying via your ATAR. If you apply as a non-recent school leaver, so that's someone who's been out of school for 12 months, then you're a non-recent school leaver, believe it or not, after a year, and then it is a portfolio submission requirement.
I think that's about it. Do we cover storyboarding? Yes, absolutely. Graphic storytelling is something that's covered and you can focus on. And another person asked about, is this a good course for advertising? It probably depends what you want to do. If you want to be an art director, then potentially this course could lead into there. If you're copywriting, things like that, no. I think, I don't know if you think that's a fair answer, Jack.
Yeah, no, I think that is a fair answer. I also, Jessie, I'm just looking at one of these questions. How do I apply for early entry? My understanding is that you can do early entry, and there's probably a link.
Yes, I'll put that in the chat now. Thanks, Jackie.
Fantastic, because that's probably very specific and yeah, needs that information clearly stated. Is that's
I think that's about it.
we've covered them.
Well, I hope that gave you a good picture of the degree and answered all your questions. And again,
Do you want me just to answer that? Are there exchange programs available?
oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to, yes, there are. We have, obviously COVID is interrupting things for us currently in terms of travel, but yes, there are exchange programs available for VisCom students. Many people exchange Europe, Asia, predominantly. We've had some students go to North America, but most of our students head to Europe, whether that be Scandinavia, Italy, UK predominantly. We've had some students go to Germany as well as Asia, Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia predominantly.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Jess, I hand it over to you to shut things down.
Well, that was open day. Thank you, Aaron, Ruby, and Jackie. I now know I want to study VisCom after that amazing presentation. Very inspiring. If anyone does have any further questions after this session about VisCom, we are having the one-to-one advising chats on Tuesday the 31st, again, from 4 till 7 p.m. So any further questions you have about any of our courses, come back and chat to us then. But apart from that, thank you all for joining. Thank you to our wonderful speakers this afternoon. And we look forward to welcoming you to study at UTS soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.